Hi guys, here is the work for two different problems from the practice that we were doing. I'm just going to cover this one so we don't have to look at it. So this is number one. And if we look at this, this is the kind where I notice that I have a plus 7y and I have a minus 7y. So if I add those two things together, I'm going to get a 0y. So when I think about that, what I'm going to do, I want one of these variables to cancel. Not this to cancel. That's not going to do us very much good. But I need either the x to cancel or the y to cancel. And if I add this plus this, they cancel. Okay. Or if I can also think of it as if I keep the signs the same, they cancel. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to think of this as kind of three different columns. 3x plus 5x is going to be 8x. 7y minus 7y is going to be 0y. And 16 plus 64 is going to be 80. Okay. And so what I needed to happen happened. Y went away because I can't solve an equation with two variables. I've got to get rid of one. So then I have 8x equals 80. I can divide both sides by 8, and I get x equals 10. Now we know that's half my problem, right? I need to get x by itself, and I need to get y by itself. So then I'm going to pick one of these equations. It does not matter which. I typically pick the first one just out of habit, but it doesn't matter. So if I take the first equation, 3x plus 7y equals 16, and I plug 10 in for x. Oops, that's supposed to be a plus. Sorry, guys. 3 times 10 is 30. I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides, and I get 7y equals negative 14. I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and I get y equals negative 2. My answer is the coordinate point with both of those in it. X comes first, and then y comes second, and that's my answer. Okay, now let's try the other one. So the other one is going to look a little different. So for this one, if I look at this, if I add these two things together, that doesn't cancel. If I add these two things together, that doesn't cancel. I don't get a 0x or a 0y. So I'm going to need to do something else. So then I think, what if I subtracted these two things? Do I get a 0x? And the answer is yes to that. So from the earlier video you saw, what I want to do is I'm going to take one of these equations. It doesn't matter which. I typically think it looks a little easier if you do the second, but I'm going to basically take the opposite of each of these numbers. Okay. Another way to think of that is I'm going to multiply them all by -1. So when I do that, this equation stays the same. In this equation, if I take the opposite of 5x, I get negative 5x. If I take the opposite of negative 2y, I get positive 2y. You can also think of this as the opposite of subtracting 2y is adding 2y. And then the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. Okay, and then I'm going to add the columns. 5x minus 5x is 0x. 4x plus 2, or I'm sorry, 4y plus 2y is 6y. And 34 plus 2 is 36. 0x is nothing, and I'm left with 6y equals 36, and I divide both sides by 6, and I get y equals 6. Okay, pick one of the equations, the original one, so not what we did something to. I pick one equation and I plug that in. Like I said, I just happen to always pick the first one. It doesn't really matter. So if I take the first one, 5x plus 4y equals 34, and I plug 6 in where I see a y. And then I solve for my missing variable, which in this case is x. Notice how in the first problem, we solve for x first. In this one, we solve for y first. So it does not matter. Okay. So then I've got 5x plus 24 equals 34 minus 24. And I'm left with 5x equals 10. Divide both sides by 5, and I get x equals 2. My final answer is the coordinate point. And so my answer is my x value and then my y value. There it is. The end.